Hello everyone, welcome to a new video and welcome to any new subscribers or any new viewers. My name is Marianne and today it's going to be a very an impromptu video in which I basically just rave about the book I'm currently reading and the author of said book, and that is Everything That Rises Must Converge by Flannery O'Connor. So for those who are unfamiliar with Flannery O'Connor, she is an American author, a Southern American author, and she's a primary, or she's a significant figure within the whole subgenre of the Southern Gothic. And I would say there are several different words or phrases that are often associated when you think of her works. Words like, darkly humorous, grotesque, and even beatific even. And one of the first things I noticed when I first read her short stories, particularly A Good Man Is Hard to Find. That was the first one I ever read. Well, the first thing actually, I read the intro, I read a bit of the intro, and there's a phrase that stuck out to me, and it was unfeminine violence. And as soon as I finished A Good Man Is Hard to Find, I immediately got that, because I don't think I have ever come across a female author who just, it feels like she just punched you. Unapologetically, unflinchingly, she just punched her right in the gut. And I've never come across a female author who has made me feel like that, or any author in such a way. And I've come across violence in several stories and several other books, but the thing is, it hit differently when it came to O'Connor. I mean, I think the most recent book that I've read as well that features violence would have to be Harlan Ellison's works, Harlan Ellison's own short stories. So I have here, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream by Harlan Ellison, and this is my most recent read from him. So this is a collection of short stories, and violence is portrayed in here, but unlike O'Connor's work, I feel like the violence here has a bit more vitriol, and that when I read them, at least, when I read them, I got a sense that the violence in here was sort of an extension or a manifestation of Ellison's own pain. Like, it's very intense and it's a bit sporadic. However, when it comes to O'Connor's work, it's strange because the way that she deals with violence, she's neither, she's not gratuitous, but neither does she hide it. She doesn't veil it behind, prose or anything like that. She just delivers it. Like it's a clean, strong punch into your gut. That's how her violence is portrayed. And it's interesting because, like I said, with Ellison's, I feel like the violence in here is just this release of pain or manifestation of pain. It just needs to be let go and just put forth on page. But the violence in O'Connor's work, there's something to it. It serves a purpose. It's meant to reveal something. It's meant to reveal some mystery that the main character wasn't getting at. And she does mention it in the quote, and unfortunately I don't have it, but it went along the lines of that, she portrays main characters that, a lot of people, they can be described as, very grotesque, walking balls of irony, but then they're also very hard-headed. So hard-headed that, strange enough, it's only through violence, through some act of violence, that they are awakened or they're opened up, or that something is properly revealed to them that they can understand. And it's just the way she handles it. It just impacts you. There's just such a significant impact. And it's quite different from any other type of violence that I've come across in other works. Another thing of note when it comes to O'Connor's stories in particular are her characters. It's so... Reading an O'Connor short story, it's so strange. It's because when you read her story, you're kind of just thrown in for a loop, and your emotions, at least mine, they're just all over the place, and you don't know where to grab on to, what person like you're supposed to attach yourself to, or how you see the ending or anything like that. You're kind of just there for the ride and you just wait for that bombshell ending. Oftentimes when you have a story or even a short story, you're following a main character and you instinctively know that this is the person that you're supposed to attach yourself onto, that you're supposed to be rooting for. But with O'Connor, when it comes to her characters, as I mentioned, like they're just balls of irony. They're just walking contradictions with, you know, certain, good aims, but incredibly flawed as well. And especially the relationships in here. Like, you know, there's a reason why the word grotesque gets used a lot when it comes to describing O'Connor's works and everything. Like the relationships in this book alone, like, they're not healthy. And there's a lot of vitriol and viscera in them, and it's kind of uncomfortable, but I found like you can't turn away, and you're more intrigued by this relationship, despite the individuals being, you know, not so friendly, not so good people. But there's just something in the way that O'Connor writes these relationships, these very flawed relationships, that you kind of just want to see how it goes and to see how this dynamic works. And, you know, as I mentioned before, like you're unsure who to root for or who is the person that you're supposed to latch on to. You assume the dynamic of power. You assume this one has the upper hand and this one doesn't, but it's just constantly shifting within the story, and like you're kind of just thrown up for a loop. And then, of course, when it reaches that climax in the end, where it just really, really hits you, especially one story here, a view of the hills, a view of the woods. And I was just shocked by the ending. Like, oh my goodness. Like, I couldn't, like, I was floored. My jaw was open. I was like, oh my goodness. And I put the book down and I had to wait a couple of minutes to get on with it. But that's just the power of, you know, her short stories and what she's able to accomplish within just, I think, like 30 pages. And I think it becomes more interesting when you have these very grotesque, almost freakish characters and with freakish relationships. And there's a hint of the beatific in there. Flannery O'Connor was a devout Catholic, and she liked to play with the theme, or the theme of grace, you know, enlightened by grace. And the way you see it imbued in her stories, it's absolutely fascinating. In some, it's quite, you can pick it up. For instance, in the story, The Enduring Chill, grace delivered by, you know, the Holy Spirit or the Holy Ghost, it's quite noticeable how that comes into play in the story. But to see how she delivers it in a story like A Good Man is Hard to Find, which is a very harrowing story, it's just absolutely fascinating. The more I read from her, particularly with this, I haven't finished all the short stories. I'm like almost done, but I love it already. With every, you know, new story, I'm thinking, why didn't I study this woman and her works in class, in lit class? Like her stories, this is like the type of stuff I would have loved to, you know, read and analyze in class, you know, have a discussion in lit class. And I really envy those who did get to study her in lit class, because I know there are those who did. But oh God, I absolutely loved it. Like these are the stories that I would really have been, you know, itching to talk about. And, you know, it's great because not only are her short stories, they're a joy to analyze, but they're also a joy to read. And aside from all of that, you know, just her writing in general also is phenomenal. It's fantastic. Not just the way that she depicts violence or like the impact that she's able to give when she does it, but just the way that she describes the natural world, the way that she describes her characters, their physical attributes and everything. I'm going to, by the way, you see that I marked it. I don't tab my books at all. Like the last time I tabbed my books was back in 4th year high school for Dante Alighieri's Inferno. But there's just so many things that I wanted to tab. So this is the first book I've tabbed in a long, long time. And you can tell like that's how much I really, really enjoyed it. This passage or this paragraph that I'm going to read is from the short story, A View of the Woods. The third time he got up to look at the woods, it was almost 6 o'clock, and the gaunt trunks appeared to be raised in a pool of red light that gushed from the almost hidden sun setting behind them. The old man stared for some time, as if for a prolonged instant he were caught up out of the rattle of everything that led to the future and were held there in the midst of an uncomfortable mystery that he had not apprehended before. He saw it, in his hallucination, as if someone were wounded behind the woods, and the trees were bathed in blood. After a few minutes, this unpleasant vision was broken by the presence of Pitt's pickup truck grinding to a halt below the window. He returned to his bed and shut his eyes, and against the closed lids, hellish red trunks rose up in a black wood. So yeah, that's like just one page, like one paragraph that I marked, but then there's several others as well that are just great, but I don't want to say because, I don't know, they're kind of spoilery, like towards the end. But yeah, that's just one of it. And yeah, the imagery that she conjures up, it's great. And there's a reason why she has been considered, especially critics at the time, to be one of, the greatest American authors. And reading O'Connor, another thing that it does is just reinforce the fact that American lit is just so diverse. Strangely enough, I haven't read a lot of American classics. I've read Fitzgerald, I've read Hemingway, I've read Morton, Morrison, Zora Neale Hurston, Mark Twain, Flannery O'Connor, but you just read their works and you see how varied and different they are. Flannery O'Connor is she's such a distinct voice within American lit, and I feel like a lot of people should read from her. However, a little side note, something you must know is that there is a lot of language here that is politically incorrect, and if you're not okay with that, whatever the context may be, okay, then maybe just pass this on, or pass it up. But I still think it's worthwhile because she is capturing a time period and a subculture of that time period. So, and she is an amazing writer. She is fantastic. I can see why she has a lot of people's favorites, and she's gonna end up a favorite of mine. So I think I'm just going to end this ramble with a quote that is not from O'Connor, but it is a quote that inspired the title cover, Everything That Rises Must Converge. And I believe it's from a Jesuit philosopher, and his name is Pierre Teilhard du Chardin. And this is the quote: "Remain true to yourself, but move ever upward toward greater consciousness and greater love. At the summit, you will find yourselves united with all those who, from every direction, have made the same ascent. For everything that rises must converge." And when you read the story and then you think of the quote, you're just wondering, wow. And you're just consumed, like your time and your mind is consumed into wondering how they connect. And to see how Flannery made the connection between what she portrayed in the story and the quote itself, and fascinating. A great author and a great set of short stories, and I can't wait to finish this, and I would definitely recommend Flannery O'Connor if you haven't. So thank you for this, for listening to me ramble, this random ramble, and I hope you all have a good day, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.